get into a little bit of a commentary about what I call the Great Divide among millennial voters. Now, with the rise of Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders and the rise of Donald Trump as well, one thing is very evident. Americans have never been more divided politically in their views in a very long time. Young millennials have been a strong driving force in both of these campaigns. It is these views that will completely change the shape of America in the future. Millennials are the first generation of Americans who are slated to be worse off than the generation before them. I'm sure you've heard that in many of the candidates' speeches. And this is what shapes many of their opinions and has thrown them to the opposite sides of the political spectrum. First, I want to talk about millennial Republicans. These young Republicans are not the same Republicans their fathers were. They have much more libertarian in their views. Social issues such as gay marriage is not a concern of theirs, particularly because they think marriage should be outside of government control. They believe in a government that stays out of the way of the people and lets them determine their own destinies. Whether they fail or succeed is up to them. They are more in line with the Founding Fathers and the idea of, quote, classic liberalism, as Robert Bork would say, and they're strong constitutionalists. They align themselves more with the old Barry Goldwater, even though they may not know who he is, and they would someone like George H.W. Bush. They also believe in equality of opportunity, not equality of outcome. They realize that freedom by itself creates certain inequalities, as not everybody is equal. Some people work harder, have more ambition, or are smarter than others, and that these differences are inherently make other people's income and lives better. This, of course, creates disparities in income and opens the country up to very marked downfalls that we've seen. Now, young Democrats, on the other hand, have come out in groves for Democratic Socialist Bernie Sanders. Claire, I know you're a supporter.
I am.
I want to think about that for a moment. We are actually considering a self-avowed socialist for president. I mean, could you even imagine that 10 years ago? They believe in immense social programs for citizens and wanted much more equal incomes among the citizens. They plan on achieving this through extensive taxation. In other words, they believe in quality of outcomes at the expense of individual liberty. They're definitely not your Bill Clinton Democrats, for sure. They also believe in restrictions on constitutional rights, such as gun ownership and free speech. As of course, I know you have many universities with their, quote, safe zones of speech and the whole world of political correctness. So we have this inherent struggle of liberty versus equality. As a great legal scholar, Robert Bork, has said, we've mentioned him earlier, you cannot have full equality and full liberty at the same time. The ideal is a little bit of both, which requires compromises and working together. The only problem is that a socialist and a libertarian cannot work together. Their ideas are too far apart. It won't mix. It's much like oil and water, and they don't go together. However, I will say this. There are a few similarities between groups of millennials. First, very few have ever served in the military, which is a great departure from baby boomers. Therefore, they are both unsure about international policy. Young libertarians and socialists don't want to be involved in foreign wars because they don't see how it affects them. Of course, I also believe this of the American public in general. Nobody likes war, but you have to understand it's a necessity for peace. As we have seen in the last few years, a weak America is not good for our own security or security in the world, as we have seen the rise in extremists such as ISIS, Taliban, Al-Qaeda, while also seeing the arm flexing of Russia and North Korea. Both are also tired of the, quote, establishment and blame them, rightfully so, I think, in most circumstances, for many of our troubles today. They just have vastly different ideas of how to solve these problems. Our Constitution was written to force compromise. The Founding Fathers intentionally made it hard to pass laws and conduct government to force this so-called compromise. This way, only the best laws would ever be passed. Without working together, our government cannot function, as we have seen especially in the last 6 years, since Republicans and Democrats have been separated. So hopefully, we millennials can start working together, or else the future of our country is in jeopardy. Now, Mr. Richard, you work with a lot of young people. Do you see this great political divide and millennials coming through the law school?
Well, I think there's been a divide that I've seen. I've seen it at different levels. I've seen it working at the United Nations. I've seen it at international level. I think we see it nationally in our parties. When you look at the current races, how different they are.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've seen it in my church, not my local parish as much, but internationally. And then I've seen it on the faculty, and so I don't know that it's that much bigger in the millennials. Maybe it is. Millennials, I think you're seeing an interesting cross section. According to some of the surveys and such, Donald Trump is drawing a number of liberals to support him, and I've seen some folks who I wouldn't have thought supporting Bernie Sanders going the other way. I think they're defying the traditional boundaries, the traditional lines, and crossing over, and I think it is fueled somewhat by concern about the future. You can call it anger if you want, but I'm not sure anger is the right word. That certainly fuels some, but I think a lot of it is unhappiness with the current situation, ready to throw the dice and try something new. A lot of people can't believe that some people would support Donald Trump, or can't believe they'd support Bernie Sanders. But these are people who have looked at the train rolling down the track with the Democrats and Republicans, and it continues not to work. Let's try something new.
I think it's funny you mentioned anger, because I think that's one of the problems Jeb Bush had throughout his campaign, and and one of the things I think it's really helped Donald Trump is that I think people would like to see an angry candidate. I do believe people are very upset over what's going on, internationally and domestically, and that's where Donald Trump is. As I said, that's where the Republican Party should definitely learn from, is watch his anger when he's at these events. But Claire, how do you think? You think I'm on the right path here when I talk about this great divide?
I think there's a dichotomy, but we have a two-party system. Politics is based in dichotomies.
But as far as the future of the Democratic Party, do you see it evolving now from where, like I said, from where it was to Bill Clinton to much more of a socialist type, big government, much more of a bigger government type platform?
Well, as I am a millennial who supports Bernie Sanders, one can only hope. But no,
do you see that among the rest of your friends or that you have in the Democratic Party? Do you see that as kind of going to the future?
I feel that that's what yes, I think that's an ideal that we want, and I think that's why we support Bernie. I'm not 100% sure if that's something we can expect from future Democratic candidates.
Why is that?
Well, first of all, Bernie Sanders only joined the Democratic Party quite recently. He's been an independent, and the only reason he is now a Democrat is because he wants to be president.
Right.
A lot of Democrats are more like Hillary Clinton and whoever the third person running is. I don't know his
I think he's out now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's out. It's only two.
Oh, good. Whoever he was. I think
it was Martin O'Malley.
That is his name, indeed. And no, the Democrats, they're a very firm establishment party. I don't think the actual heart of the party has ever truly deviated from their norm.
Okay. Like I said, I've talked to a lot of young Republicans, and I definitely have that feel of, like I said, that much stronger libertarian type direction they want to take the party. And like I said, that's kind of been when you had the Tea Party come in, the Republican Party is kind of fighting itself on a lot of these issues, because I think you have that, what I think the party's going in the future and where it is now. But this is also why I think when we have division like this, that we need a Ronald Reagan. A man, whether you like him or not, you cannot deny worked on both sides of the aisle constantly. It's hard to believe that during his presidency, the Democrats held the majority of the House all 8 years, and yet they still managed to get things done. It seems like it's a fantasy world today that could ever happen. Ronald Reagan brought people together, and he was a leader who truly loved America and her people, and he wanted to see the best for it. If we don't have another Ronald Reagan-like leader from either party soon, I think the very future of the country could be in jeopardy because of this, what I believe is a divide growing in our country.